It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast, connecting you to the very best in real estate information across Australia. We do it, as you know, 7 days a week because we talk to all of the real estate experts around the country. You can stream us to any time on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast and Amazon. Don't forget to tell a friend of yours if they love real estate as much as you do. It helps widen our reach and bring you even better content. Well, it's a Tuesday morning, February the 4th. Good morning to Catherine and Olay. I hope that I've pronounced that right. You are both in Melbourne and you are due to be married, you say, later in the year. Between the both of you, you say that you've got 3.5 jobs and you still can't make the buying a property work. And after listening to a lot of our podcasts, especially around moving states, you have decided to up and leave and you're moving to regional Queensland. So thank you for sending that email in. Do let us know. Keep us up to date with how that move takes place and where you decide to finally move to. And the email address, if you would like to drop us a line, is myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Well, how much last year did we talk about Perth? A lot is what I would suggest, because it was this whole positive attraction factor in Perth. And we're going to take you to Perth right now and catch up with Mike King, who has been looking at some of Perth's untapped potential. And good morning to you, Mike. It's so true, isn't it? The attraction factor, it seems to be continuing where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's realising Perth and Western Australia is the absolute best place to live. I don't see that stopping.
And having a look at the Perth's Eastern Corridor, now this has been in the wires in the news over the last few days, an untapped opportunity. Large blocks ideal for subdivision and close to key amenities. Perth's Eastern Corridor offers significant investment potential. Tell us a little bit about these areas like Middle Swan that's been identified, Midvale and High Wycombe. They're primed for growth, are they?
Absolutely. I think the entire Eastern Corridor is untapped. It's potentially been thought of as an undesirable place to live at times, and there's many of those throughout Perth. But when you look at affordability and being able to afford a block of land, you can either go an hour and a half out of the city and buy a block of land for 300 to 400,000, or you can buy something in an inner city suburb. And when you look at places like Middle Swan, Midvale, Swan View, Bellevue, you've got a great little pocket there throughout Cooncoonga Maya. As you move a little bit further south, you've got your High Wycombes and your Maida Vale and Forestfield that are all really good investment opportunities where you can buy up to 1,000 square metre block of land for under $800,000, which then can be subdivided to 3 or 4 different units. And I think that's where we are able to actually supply affordable housing still here in the Perth suburbs. And all the amenities are there other than the proximity to the beach, but you've still got proximity to the city, you've got proximity to all of your common amenities that you need. And I just think these areas are probably the best investment currently that Perth has to offer.
Now, the Perth median house price, wow, look at that, surpassed $900,000, which means that it's on track to hit $1 million later this year. Talk about the strong population growth, of course, also the limited housing supply, rising demand. That is something that we've talked about. It's just not slowing down and, you put your foot on it. It is this very strong, popular area now into those eastern corridors that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think what it is we have beautiful climate, we've got an amazing array of amenities, etc. available, and we're very secluded. And the fact that we're secluded has made us become the poor cousin, so to speak, within the Australian Australian economy, but that's actually changed a lot, especially after COVID, and we see people coming and flooding to Perth. And I think the reason we're seeing things start to rise and we're approaching what I believe is our first boom in a very long time is because we're not affected by the commodities sector at the moment. While that's down, we don't have any major projects finishing. We don't see any major, large scales of people ready to vacate our western suburbs. What we see is more people actually wanting to live here, and there are less homes for sale right now than there were this time last year, and yet we still didn't hit our targets of what we should have, and I don't think we can, and so I don't see this slowing down in any way, shape or form.
Now, you've said that people will go into a shared rental and sign up for, one of these 1 or 2 year leases with people that they don't even know. But when it comes to buying property with somebody that they do know, like a brother, a sister or a mate, they don't do it. So what's going on there in the mindset, do you think?
I think we're so affected to think that property investment is out of reach. And so it doesn't even cross our mind. The idea, everyone thinks that they need to save a huge deposit. Everybody believes they need to do all of these factors. And so they don't do anything. Yet when they're looking for a house, rather than seeing what are the ways or the non-traditional ways to get into property ownership now, what's the soonest that I can get in, they'll rather jump in with a bunch of random people and live there. And everyone's had a roommate that they hated. Everyone's had someone who's horrible from that. So you might argue with your uncle, your brother, your cousin, your mate, but better off to be making money and putting yourself in a position of home ownership than just trying to rent a property. And why not? Why not look to multi-generational living? Why not look to multi-friendship aspects or find somebody? The government tried this in a small way a few years ago, but I think it's something, I really believe it's one of the only options for a lot of people now because they are priced out of the market. And it's not that the market's not affordable, it's just that affordable range has shifted and it's never going to come down. Like you said, the affordability is up between 8 to 900,000, average price for a home.
Yes, and it sort of comes back to Catherine and Olay at the top when I was mentioning they've got 3.5 jobs and they still can't make the numbers work for them in Melbourne. And if you have a look at new buyers, they really do need to rethink, as you're saying, the whole approach, because the rising prices, single buyers now need an income of $130,000 to secure a home. And that's quite a long way away from $55,000 that was required in just 2020. Man, has that moved?
Absolutely. You could buy a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in 2020, single story, on say a 350 square metre block for around the 300 to 350,000, and a $55,000 income would have secured that. Nowadays, you need to be earning at least $130,000 as a single, or as a couple, probably closer to $170,000, especially if you've got kids. The problem is people don't just have their income. And every time I hear somebody say that they can't get into a home of their own, that they can't save, it's generally because we're spending. We spend every little cent that we have. Some places right now the rent has definitely gone up, and that puts a hinder in it. But again, it comes down to the ability of people to look at what the other options are. If you could have bought a house for $55,000 4 years ago, obviously you should have. But in the last 4 years, we've seen the median house price rise, and in fact more than double what it was. And so if that's happened, some people are like, no, there's going to be a crash. It's all going to come back down. Land's going to be cheaper, so I'm going to hold. That never happens. It's never happened in all of history that every single area, that every single suburb has suddenly crashed. There's always going to be some suburbs that need to realign in price, and we can definitely delve into that. But the reality is, for most people, now you need to have an income of anywhere between $120,000 to $130,000 just to get into your first home.
You talk about the multi-buyer purchases, also rent vesting, that's emerging as a bit of a viable strategy for those struggling to enter the market. How much of that rent vesting are you sort of seeing?
Like, it's become a massive part of it. And I think that's another alternate that people don't understand. And so when the bank looks at you, they're looking at your personal serviceability. How much money do you make? What are your expenses? This is what I'm willing to lend you. And most people look at that and say, well, I don't have an option. But if you were to include the rental income of the property that you're looking to buy, and it becomes an investment loan, so you turn that onto an interest-only loan rather than a principal and interest loan, all of a sudden your serviceability increases dramatically. And if you're in a place where, let's say that you want to live in Perth, in one of the western suburbs, even somewhere like, say, Craigie or Duncraig, etc., great areas where a lot of people have grown up, but they can't afford to buy a house there because the median prices are now hitting closer to 900,000 and above, but they could potentially buy an investment property out in the eastern suburbs. You should get into an investment property as soon as you possibly can. Not waiting a year, not trying to save extra deposit, but doing whatever it takes to get in. And Perth has amazing opportunities that no other state has. You know, we do have Keystart here. No other state has that. And that's something that can help people get into their first home.
Yeah, and having a look at the building numbers with the national housing targets, Western Australia fell short of its national housing accord targets, completing 5,924 homes. This is in the September quarter, 500 homes below the goal. Not as bad as some other states, though, I note.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we cannot build enough homes. There's no other solution right now other than to build new homes. You know, there's plenty of people already sharing, etc. So if our only option is to build homes, but we can only build anywhere between 12 to 15,000 homes a year currently, where do we take this from here? You know, the government is trying to say that they want us to build apartments and that. But even if you were to, from an investor's perspective, if you were to be given land, you could not make the dollars work to be an investor and build apartments right now. So our only option, and Perth has a lot of land, it's just undeveloped. You know, the government's releasing a lot of land in the far northern corridor and also the far southern corridor, but that doesn't really help people when they've now got to drive an hour and a half to work every day. All of a sudden having a three-hour commute, you know, to and from work, whereas you could go to some of these inner city suburbs, go to a subdividable block and actually buy something that's affordable and live within 20 minutes of work, family, friends, etc.
Mike, stop it. You're talking way too much sense here.
That's the problem, right? Like, we can't fix this issue we have here in Perth. I honestly, I can't see it slowing down for the next 5 to 7 years. For the last 2 years, I've been sort of raging on about this, and I hear every naysayer saying the Perth property market's going to slow. The Perth property market's going to come down. We're going to have a crash. We're going to see, you know, interest rates rise and interest rates drop. The truth about interest rates is it actually does not matter what the interest rate is. You should ask yourself 2 questions. Can I afford this, and will it make me money? And if the answer to both of those is true, irrespective of the interest rates, you should absolutely jump into the market.
All right, we'll leave it there on our Tuesday morning. Hey, have a fantastic day there in Perth, the state that is going off in WA. And thanks for coming on, Mike, to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Let's fuel your passion for property together. Join us, along with our industry experts, to help inspire and inform your next real estate decision.
Now, often this happens to younger people, as we've mentioned, with young children. Their world absolutely changes within this flash flooding event. How much of that have you actually seen, just in terms of the stress load?
One of the heartbreaking things to have witnessed over the last 2 years has been seeing people under incredible emotional, financial and mental stress. Anytime it looked like it was going to rain, had their go bag ready to go with life jackets. One of the things that people had is they were paying rates on properties they couldn't live in. This is one of the unseen tolls that this has, that these ever-increasing weather events are having on people, is the emotional toll, the mental toll that isn't just for the lifetime of the event. My family and I were able to get out of our flooded home and move into another home, but it brought up a whole lot of memories that I thought were long buried. It is more than the event itself.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.